Hey YouTube, Brock here. So I've been very reluctant to share this video, mostly because of the polarization of our country this last 4 years. But I want to share why I'm voting for the evil Donald Trump. And I want to share where I came to that decision and how I did. So let me give you a background of me. So I am an independent. I have never registered with any party. I'm actually a little more anti-establishment, where I actually believe the parties are a big part of the problem in a lot of the problems we have, where it's become more about it's about being on the side that you're being on the opposite side that your enemy is on. And it's like the Republicans pick an issue and the Democrats pick the opposite issue, or the vice versa. And I've just been sick and tired of it. And I've been pretty politically active, paying attention, I should say, for quite a while, at least 20 years or so. So to give you history, I don't believe in single straight party votes. I think if you do straight line party votes, then you don't get to complain about anything. That, to me, that's just as bad as voting. It's not as bad, but it's almost as bad as not voting, because you may be voting for a president, but then you're eroding your foundation underneath, because you could have some real winners in there. And sometimes it's hard. There's some really, innocuous people in local elections. It probably doesn't matter, but I really try to, when I vote, I go through the ballot. I look who's on the ballot. I try and figure out prior to see who I'm going to vote for, and I've felt very unenthusiastic for years about who to vote for. I really have. I voted third party for a while. So just give you a hint, I didn't vote for Obama, and mostly what I didn't like about Obama wasn't really Obama himself. I thought it was great where we were going with it, that who he was and everything. I had more problems with how he got his political start and who his friends were. Bill Ayers being the biggest one. So I had a problem with that. That was kind of my biggest pet peeve with Obama, and he created a lot of division. Anyways, that's a whole other story. But I didn't vote for Clinton or Trump in 2016. Clinton, to me, Hillary Clinton is just as much part of the establishment as George Bush or Obama was, or clear back to George H. Bush or George W. Bush. And Clinton and her husband, and the way she treated the people that accused her husband, even Monica Lewinsky, who we know did things with him, the way she treated them was just so despicable, So I didn't vote for them, and so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and to give you an idea of how I think too, I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. I used a very precise ruler to measure Mitt Romney, and to me, he never measured up to it. I understand that in politics, you kind of have to make some. I mean, even in life, you have to make concessions and make some. You don't really have to give up your morals, but there's decisions that have to be made, and I've just felt like he's got one foot in both, and it just, I never got a good feeling with him, and it's just getting worse. I think, anyway. So I never voted for him, so I used a very specific ruler to measure him, because he's a member of my church, and he was using that, he was saying that he was. So I says, okay, we both kind of have the same moral base, and I can do this because I'm going to set you to a higher standard because of that. I'm going to be looking for you to be that beacon if you're going to do that, because I really thought that'd be awesome to have a member of my church as president of the United States, but I still didn't vote for him because I felt like he was no different than who he was running against. So here's where I think I made the mistake. And I think I've learned from this too. But I use that same measuring stick to measure Trump. And the reason why is I think I was like a lot of people. I saw Trump, he came in like a bull in a china closet, and and you saw him like, man, he is a jerk. And he is kind of he's loud. He's got a lot to him. And in 2016, I was like, I want to vote for a nice guy. I want somebody who is a gentleman or just nice and he didn't seem presidential, So, or what I had created in my mind is that. So I used that same device. Well, so time started going on. It was probably like 2018. I can tell you what made me start to shift a little bit. I mean, because I would say I was always just felt disenfranchised. I was sick and tired of the wars, sick and tired of the division, this race division that's going on. Sick and tired of the media. This has been going on for a long time. Just the bias. Like, I know we're fair and balanced. No, you're biased. I mean, it's sick. I'm just sick and tired of it, and the double standards. So what made me really kind of shift or start to shift a little bit, or at least look at Trump differently, was the Russia probe. And when that started, I was like, that seems a little fishy to me. So, it was the Mueller probe got in there, and I was like, that just seems weird. I mean, I remember Trump my whole life. He was cameoed in so many different shows, and I just thought, okay, he's just some kind of. I guess if you were on one side of thing, he was the 1%, or he was that boogeyman. But I just thought he's just some reality TV guy, or he was on a lot of shows. But so I thought that's weird. I think you're saying he's a Russian asset. You're telling me that he's some Manchurian candidate that when the USSR fell, that they put him into place back then. And, I was like, that just seems really far-fetched. And of course the Mueller probe came out, and then he didn't find anything. And I was like, that didn't surprise me at all. It just seemed really far-fetched. And then they did the impeachment. And then I was really like, okay, this is just getting weird. And the media, and very specific media people too, but we use that term's been used like mainstream media, and it's true. It's like the CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, all these big AP, all these big names, the mainstream people, they were just relentless on him. And after the Mueller probe and then during the impeachment, I was like, okay, I got to start looking into this a little bit more, because I've always tried to be at least neutral on some things, because I want to know the story and stuff, and I have my beliefs and my experiences. So after the impeachment, or during the impeachment, I was like, something's just not right with this. So I started really getting into more videos, because I feel like if you're just watching commentary, like, commentary is not always bad, but you really need to watch the videos, because commentary, sometimes they're taking things out of context, but sometimes they're just showing you clips, and they may not mean to take it out of context, but it's good sometimes to watch clips. So I was just watching a lot of things, like, it's just kind of weird. It's like every time, like, who was the really, Chris Cuomo was one of the worst. Like, every time he says something, I go and I look into it a little bit more, or I'd see something, Trump did this today, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that guy did that. And then I'd see another story, like, that's okay, who's right? And then I have to spend an hour figuring out what's right. So I started down that path, and then I was just watching. So I was realizing that, like, okay, I can't do commentary. I need to actually watch videos. And let me tell you, I can tell you not the day, but I can tell you what I was watching that just made me totally 100% on board with Trump. It was, and then it's gotten even stronger because of some things that I've seen, because it really made me go a little bit more heavy on really just watching him. So I was watching a roundtable discussion. It was, I think it was like March or February of this year. It might have been a little later, but it was a roundtable discussion with it was in Florida with Trump and some Cuban American immigrants, and one of the representatives from Florida was Cuban, and they were having a discussion about socialism and communism and Venezuela and Cuba and those places and things, how, their experiences. They had a few people on this in this discussion, and I was just watching. It was long. It's like 2 hours long, and I watched the whole thing. And it was at that moment when I was watching him, and it really was not that far into it too. I watched him, and it was in this setting where he wasn't being bombarded. Like, there were no reporters just asking him questions. They were in a discussion, and someone would take a time to talk about like their experience they had with socialism in Venezuela and their story coming to the U.S. and all this stuff. And I watched Trump, and he was such a different person from how he's been portrayed. And I watched this, and I was just blown away by like his compassion for these people. And I watched the whole thing. I just, somebody would say something, and he would just say, "Hey, thank you for sharing that. That's really good. We're really trying to help you with that." And I will say there was still some of his ego coming through, and I don't think he's narcissistic. I think he's just a little egotistical, and that's whatever. So, but he really cared. Like, he really was talking to these people, and when he was talking to them, it was like nobody else mattered. It was all about the people that were in this group. And I was just watching that, and I was just blown away. I was like, I felt so betrayed by the media at that point. I mean, I'd already known that something was just not right, but at that stage, I just like, this is so sad that they're not showing this. Like, he's having this discussion, and they really are doing things like they're telling their experience that had come from some administration policies that they put in place to help get people out of these situations, and that's what they were talking about. And it was just mind-boggling that no one was talking about this. So, and I'm very pro-immigrant, and I've been for a while, and it was a big deal to me. It was a big issue that I feel very strongly about, and so that was my big turning point, at least to where I was like, okay, I'm 100% in. This is my guy. Like, he really actually cares. And then I was watching some other things. I was watching him do another roundtable discussion with. It was some firefighters. I don't remember where it was. I didn't watch that whole thing, but I was watching, and it was the same thing. There were there were no reporters. It was just him and those people, or at least the reporters weren't talking. And he was just so down to earth and just listening, and everyone was so appreciative of each other. And it was just like, it's like, you guys, everyone gets so mad because he's so defensive and he's just such a bully. But it's like, that's because people are coming in with torches and pitchforks and coming after him, and he's just fighting back a lot of the times. Like, I watched some of the people, like Jim Acosta's he's total hack. His whole purpose there is just to create a ruckus in the news conferences. But I know Trump probably keeps it because he knows what he's going to do and he can use it against it. But whatever. But I watched this. I really started to see a sense of Trump. And so then I started really getting in further. And then we started getting to peace agreements this year. And I was watching the Grinnell, yeah, ambassador or whatever the guy's name is. I'm sorry, I can see his face. He was talking about in the Kosovo and Serbia peace accord. So my generation, I remember sitting in junior high and high school and watching Channel 1. And in Channel 1, we had the Serbia and Kosovo War. And the one Asian lady reporter was doing it, and she was always talking about it. And she was, reporting on this, and she's like, there's a lot of people dying here. Like, it was a war zone in these places. And now here's Grinnell, and he's talking about this, like, this is huge. And I was like, dude, this is huge. I remember these wars. I mean, these countries turned into like the Hatfields and McCoys. They were always fighting, and it was just always this, it was going to be a never-ending war. And when he's talking about this, and a reporter comes out, and he's like, tries to change the subject, and Grinnell just hammered down on him. I was like, dude, you don't understand how important this is. And he was saying, look, Trump made this possible. And I was like, dude, I totally feel you. That was something that hit me really hard too, because I was like, that is a big deal to me. And then we get the Abraham Accords, and we get other ones, and it's like, I'm one of those, war is necessary, but it's like last resort. And Obama got us into wars. Bush got us into insane wars. And then Biden's been talking about other wars, and I'm like, and then Trump's trying to get troops out of Afghanistan. He's trying to get troops out of Iraq. He got a bunch out of Germany. And I know there's just a base there, but like he's really trying to bring the troops home, and they're fighting him. Even Congress is fighting him on that. And I'm like, that is just blows my mind. That I don't know what your take is on that, but it's like you gotta open your eyes and see, like, it's just whatever he says, they're against it. And and it's like I was very focused on the coronavirus. And I know there's people that are like, oh, but look how many people died because he screwed up. And I think you are really mistaken. And because that's such hyperbole to use that. Because did he save lives? Could it have been worse? Could it have been better? You don't know that. And I think that is such a wrong way to put it. Like when he came out and says, yeah, I talked to President Z, and he said it was bad and all this stuff, and when we shut down, like when he shut down travel from China, wouldn't that be a proper response to what President Z said? Like, this is deadly. Like, okay. And he shut down, and everyone fought him. I mean, Pelosi's out there. Oh yeah, look, we're in Chinatown because we're virtue signaling that we're okay. Like, that's Chinatown. That's not. It wasn't xenophobic, if it came from Mexico, we'd shut down for Mexico. But it's like, so they just had to fight him. And I'm like, if the media would have gotten just a fraction more behind him on coronavirus, I agree it could have been better. But look at the places that it was really bad. New York. He had no control over New York. He had no control over really anywhere. And I'm so sick and tired of this. We're just playing the blame game. But I don't know what kind of information he had, but he sure did keep from a panic. We already had some weird toilet paper panic, which is so weird. But like, that's what a president does. He calms people. That's okay to play something down. I mean, panic is what causes more problems. And then he wants to open back up. I'm like, yeah, let's get this back open because there's going to be a lot of deaths. And he got fought on that too. I'm like, you want him to be a leader, but you want him to do what you want him to do. And I'm like, that's why you elect a leader, to do what he's supposed to do. And so I've just been, I'm just surprised that people don't see that the same way. I mean, I've been trying to really look at it. I've been watching Biden. Like, I'm not a fan of Biden. I was never a fan before, but I was watching all his stuff, and people are like, oh, Trump's so mean. I don't know if you watched the video where Biden called one of his supporters, like, Trump's mean. But if you watch, he's really only mean to people that are really combative to him. Like, yeah, he said something really bad about Rosie O'Donnell, or he said something like he called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas or Sleepy Joe. These are people that are combative to him. If that's the case, then you need to really use that same metric for everybody. Joe Biden, one of his supporters asked him a total softball question, like total softball, and he called her a pony-faced liar. And it was such I mean, a mind-blowing moment. And or he called some guy fat, and nobody talks about these because we can't talk about Biden. Don't talk about Biden. We got to be nice to Biden. It's like, he is not a nice guy. Like, he's really not a nice guy. And if you use that same metric, like what I was saying, like, yeah, Trump's not very nice, but none of them have been. I mean, Hillary was a total jerk to those women that were accusing Clinton of things, which we know that he did it. But, she gets a pass. It just, this double standard just drives me crazy. But when you look at it, Trump is not mean to his voters. Like, it's like he really cares. And then same thing, use that same metric. Pelosi ripping up the State of the Union address and the things she said. It's just, and you ask somebody, well, why don't you like Trump? Oh, it's so many things. Like, okay, what has he done? Like, what has he done? Like, we're talking about, I don't know. I feel like I'm very well informed. I watch so many different things. I even sit and watch the horrendous CNN news reports. I can't tell you how excruciating it is sometimes. But I watch it because I want to know kind of I mean, I've gotten to the point where it's like whatever they say, it's just the opposite. But I want to be informed, and I'm really disappointed that people are like, if you want to vote for Biden, that's fine, but this demonization of Trump is just so wrong, and I really feel like it's such a strange way people have gotten to where it's not like it's this polarization. Like, you're either all in for Trump, it seems like, or you're all in for Biden. But I know there's a middle ground, but it's sad because I don't think you're really giving the president the time he needs to see who he is. I mean, and I'm just so shocked when people are like, I don't, or when they say, oh yeah, I can't vote for Trump because of this. I'm like, are you really even watching? Like, watch the raw video. He is such a different person. He's really not a different person. You just see him in a different light. And then when you see that, you see him at these press conferences. Yeah, he's combative. He's yelling at people. He's like, you're fake news. They are. I mean, it's so mind-boggling. And then to just blame him for things, but nobody gives him the credit he deserves. Like, military loves him because he's not getting into these wars. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling on a lot, but I feel like I'm 100% in for Trump. And I don't think voting for Biden is, he's not going to like destroy the country. But I think if you are anti-war, anti-big government, or even partially, or if you are for world peace, or even if you are big into like the prison reform thing, all these things. If you're for that, I don't know where you see Biden's going to give you any of that, because he's the same thing, regurgitated over and over again. Okay, one more thing. Whatever you hear CNN, MSNBC, or Biden, or any of those, whatever you hear them accuse Trump of, it's what they've done. Like the Ukraine thing, that was the whole. If you remember, it was like, first it was Russia, and like, well, it was that quid pro quo thing in Ukraine. Then you got Biden on video saying that he made them fire the prosecutor from Ukraine. If you think you are informed, you need to find out what that meant. That prosecutor that they fired was the prosecutor that was investigating Burisma that Hunter Biden sat on the board of for corruption. And he got him fired so they wouldn't investigate Burisma anymore. That is as quid pro quo as you can get. And they're withholding aid from Ukraine. So and we don't talk about Joe Biden being indicted by Ukraine. Of course, we don't talk about that. But all these things that come out, like, remember where they said he called the military losers? It's like, oh, that is not true. That is so not true. Even back in 2016, I can tell you that is not true because he's been very pro-military. And then, of course, it comes out anonymous sources, blah, blah, blah. Then we find out, the video gets released of Biden calling military dumb bastards and just relentlessly talking crap about them. And it's like they saw this coming out. Oh, we better hurry and throw something out before get ahead of it. And it's like, seriously, I'm just, people I talk to, like most of the people I talk to are for Trump, but some people are afraid to say it. But it's like, I'm just baffled that people are like, yeah, I'm informed and I'm not voting for Trump. He's just a bad guy. I'm like, are you really, like, what are you watching then? Because if you strip away all of that mainstream media, and it's not like, I mean, you could say Fox. Fox is not even nice to him, but they give you somewhat of a picture. I mean, Tucker Carlson has just eviscerated him before. And I think Fox is just as much in the bag, but it's like, watch the video, watch the raw footage of him, watch the whole thing. I know it takes time, but watch who he is. And it just changes everything. And then his wife, Melania, is, I've heard good things about Nancy Reagan. I remember reading a book about him, the Secret Service talking about her like she was the most sweetest person in the world. Melania's got to be on that. She just seems, and when she talks, when she does these things, she just seems like an amazing person. What you would expect from a first lady. So, I mean, so it doesn't matter. I think the fear mongering has gotten to a lot of people, but I think the election's coming up. So I implore you, go watch those videos. Watch him when he's not being bombarded by reporters that are truly out to get him, and watch that stuff, because I think it will at least give you a different insight into who he is. So I'm just, it's just, again, I'm sorry. I've really been nervous making this because I know that there's a lot of people, like, it's become so polarized. Although I will say, at least in my little bubble, I see more people. I talk to more people that are going to vote for Trump, and they're really afraid because it seems like, and again, I don't know if it's fear mongering, but I see a lot more reports and incidents where Trump supporters are attacked, and it's, again, I don't know all the stories. I don't follow them exactly, but it has made a lot of people afraid to speak up. Like, I have a Trump flag, but I don't want to put it up because I am actually afraid of what people will do. And that is so sad that we've created politics into this weird thing, But anyways, so that's just how I feel on Trump. It doesn't really matter if you agree. I just hope that if you're for Biden, or even if you're voting third party, I just implore you to go watch some different videos. Go to the source, watch him in these meetings and these other settings where, like, actually go look for it. It's like, if you're looking for hate, you'll find it. If you're looking for love, you'll find it. Look for the good in him, and I think you'll be quite surprised how much different he is than how he's portrayed in the media. So I feel like he loves this country. He truly is America first, and I don't think we've had an America first president since Reagan. And even still, that could be debated, but it just seems, it just, they call him racist, and they call him racist. I'm like, I've never heard anything racist out of his mouth. Even before I didn't, in 2016, like, he made some very off the wall comments about some things. And yes, and that's where I talk about why I needed to use a bigger or a different metric to measure him. I couldn't use the same one that I would use for Mitt Romney, because he would never measure up to that, because he's not a member of my church. So he has a different lifestyle. Whether I agree with the lifestyle or not, it's not fair to me to measure him that way, because I will be let down. So, but I think I can honestly, if I measure both Biden and Trump the same, Trump comes out on top. I think he's actually a nicer person. He's not creepy. We cannot. We got to start talking about Creepy Joe, okay? Those pictures of him touching and sniffing, that has got to be the weirdest thing for a presidential candidate. Oh gosh. That's another thing. I can tell also that the media is totally covering for Joe. So, and again, I'm not here to like push you away from Joe Biden. If you want Joe Biden, that's fine. But I'm just saying, I wish you would give Trump a better view, and like take the time. Don't do that. Don't be those dumb people like, oh well, why don't you like Trump? Well, there's so many things. There's just so many things that he does. As soon as you say that, I know you're full of crap. Like, you have no idea. You've just been told that he's a bad guy and he's doing this, he's doing that. Like, and if there is something that he's done bad, look into it. Like, really look into it. Spend some time. If there's something he's done good, look into it. Spend the time. Like, be informed. Like, I really feel like I've spent a lot of time figuring out, like, things where you're not going to see me out. This is how unenthusiastic I get, though. I'm enthusiastic enough to do this. Going to a rally is that would be my tipping point. And I know there'd be some really good people there, because I've actually watched these rallies and watched the before, like the tailgate parties, if you will, and the afters. Like, they're really good people. And there's media that is there just looking for the bad people. They're looking for those agitators, and they're looking for but they're not there. They're actually normal people that are nice, normal people. And so I'm sorry, I keep rambling on. I actually go on a long time about this, but please just be informed and take the time. There's so much information out there. And it really doesn't take that long if you're looking for love, find it, and you'll see it, and it's there. So that's all I have to say. Sorry it took so long. There's just a lot to say. One more thing again. If you go through and find these things, go through and look for the love, like I said, find and really look at who he is. And you don't have to go to that extreme where you're like, okay, I'm voting for him. I'm just saying, go watch these clips and see who he is when he's not in battle armor, okay? See who he is when he lets his orange locks down, okay? See who he is. Then go through those issues that you have. Like, this is why I stand behind him on the coronavirus. I stand behind him on the peace accords. I stand behind him on his dealing on Portland and Wisconsin and things, because I've seen who he is, and it strips away it lets you see who's really out to get him. So, okay, so that's what I have to say. So thanks for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Sorry this was so long. I really didn't mean for it to be this long, but I really feel strongly about this. So, thanks.